What's up? And I'm back with topic number 39, and starting from this number 39 until 41, I'll be doing a three-part discussion on this thing called denial. Now basically we all know what denial is, which is to choose not to acknowledge something. Basically, you deny it. That's basically the act of denial. And even though this thing is very simple itself, I discovered that this thing denial or denying itself or the act of denying has a lot of things to do, especially when it comes to interhuman relationships, which is why I feel that there is a need for me to break down into three parts of this discussion. Now, I have done a sharing on denial before during my church fellowship, which I discussed with a few fellow youths who are slightly older than me on what denial is and what kind of denials are there. So basically for the three parts, I'll be doing a part one, which I will introduce the four kinds of denials that there is out there. The second part is how big of an effect that denial has. That's for part two. And for part three, I'll be sharing a thing on playing the victim. Now, if you're kind of wondering how does playing the victim have something to do with denial, I will explain when that video comes. So let's stick to this part one, which is what kind of denials are there? Now, we all know that denial is very simple. Like I just said, it's something that's extremely simple. However, when I did a bit of research, I realized that denial itself has categories on its own. Well, there's no specific statistic when it comes to talking about denials. There are four kinds of categories that experts have concluded and have agreed upon that there is out there. Now, the four kinds of denials which are namely behavioral denials, codependency denials, emotional denials, and denial towards needs. So let's look into it. Now, behavioral denials is basically the lack of sensitivity towards the right and wrong of something. Basically, that person has a bit of lack of sensitivity when it comes to distinguishing between what is right and what is wrong. Now, this kind of behavioral denial normally originates from upbringing and growing environments. Basically, what they've been taught and what they've been instilled throughout their upbringing can contribute to behavioral denials. Let's take an example. A man can feel that abusing his other half is nothing wrong, maybe most probably because this person grows up in an abusive environment, which makes this person feel that abusing is nothing wrong. This is so-called behavioral denial. And it's kind of extreme because, like I said, I have to use the example of abuse, but this is the larger scale. When we deny even some tiny actions like telling white lies is nothing wrong, but to some people, telling white lies still regardless is wrong. It is always an upbringing effect, how you've been taught by the people around you or what you've been demonstrated upon by mainly the grown-ups around you or even peer effect. And the second one, codependency. Basically, you deny that you need help. Now, you may be thinking, isn't this a good thing, you're being independent? But there is a difference between independence and codependency denial, which basically is these kind of people in this kind of denial, they would have the arrogance to say that I don't need anybody else. Yes, it is good to be independent, but it is not good when you take independence to a whole new level, which means you don't want to be helped in any way, which is problematic because most jobs in the world today require you to work as a team. And if you are living in a codependency denial, you're basically a person who cannot be a team player. And this is very dangerous when it comes to making friends because nobody wants to be working with a person who cannot play as a team player. That is basically it. And the third thing is emotional denial, which I feel that this is a huge denial that a person will sink into when this person is in a whole emotional valley. Basically, you feel that that you choose not to acknowledge your internal emotions. Like say for example, you know that you are depressed, but you don't want to come off as a person who is emo, so you choose to put on a mask to mask up yourself, which I kind of discussed in my last topic about is it okay to feel down. You may look into it if you wish to cross-reference, but it's basically you're choosing not to acknowledge how you feel right now. Now, instead of facing it, you choose to escape it, mainly by putting on a mask. But regardless, if you choose not to face it, you are in denial that you are in that situation, and you choose to deny the fact that you have to face it, which is why it is called an emotional denial. And last but not the least is a denial of needs, which is basically being a slave to another person's needs, you are at last place. Now, I understand the fact that we must be humble. It's something that we've been taught. It's a good value that we be humble. But there is a difference between being humble and being inferior. Something also related to my last video. And it's not good to be an emotional slave. We all know that the word slave itself is already pretty bad of a term. So if you are emotional slave, which means if a person wants to torture you for their fun, you will feel that it is okay for them to do that. It is okay for people to step on you, I don't matter. Basically, this is originating from inferiority. You are not important, but to put it into reality perspective, this means that you're thinking that you're worthless. So get what I mean? So it's pretty similar to emotional denial, but the emotional denial is about choosing not to acknowledge emotions, whereas the denial of needs, which is about choosing to put yourself as a slave, your needs to be a slave to another person. So now that we've known the 4 kinds of denials, I will go into how denial plays a role in many relationship problems that many people actually encounter today. So I'll see you in my part 2, and for this one, I say peace out and see ya.